In the early hours of June 7, 1992, in a quiet house on East Delmer Street in Springfield, Missouri, 3 women vanished without a trace. No screams echoed through the night. No doors were forced. No blood stained the floors. Their purses sat untouched. The cars remained in the driveway. A loyal dog paced alone, confused. By morning, the house stood silent, as if they had simply stepped into another world. So what happened inside that ordinary home? What force pulled Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, and Stacy McCall into oblivion? This is the story of the Springfield Three, and one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Springfield, Missouri, in the summer of 1992, was a place of small-town rhythms and Midwestern warmth. Nestled in the Ozarks, it was a city of about 140,000 people, where high school graduations marked the end of one chapter and the promise of another. The air was thick with the scent of blooming dogwoods and the buzz of cicadas. Families gathered for barbecues, kids rode bikes until dusk, and the local news focused on community events rather than crime. It was the kind of town where people left the doors unlocked, trusting in the familiarity of neighbors. But beneath that surface calm, life could turn unpredictable in an instant. June 6 was a day of celebration. At Kickapoo High School, the class of 1992 walked across the stage at the Hammons Student Center on the campus of Southwest Missouri State University. Among them were 2 close friends, 19-year-old Suzie Streeter and 18-year-old Stacy McCall. Suzie, with her striking dark hair and lively spirit, had a rebellious streak. She was artistic, loved drawing, and had a complicated family background. Her parents had divorced when she was young, and she lived with her mother. But on graduation day, she was all smiles, proud of the milestone. Stacy, blonde and athletic, was the quintessential good girl, cheerful, responsible, from a stable family. She played volleyball, loved her friends, and dreamed of a future beyond Springfield. Their bond was tight, forged in the hallways of Kickapoo, where they navigated teenage life together. Suzie's mother, Sherrill Levitt, was there to witness the moment. At 47, Sherrill was a hard-working cosmetologist, known for her skill with hair and her warm personality. She had raised Suzie mostly on her own after a difficult divorce, and the two shared a close, if sometimes strained, relationship. Sherrill was practical, independent, and fiercely protective. She had recently bought a modest ranch-style home at 1717 East Delmer Street, a quiet neighborhood of single-family houses, tree-lined streets, and the occasional passing car. It was a place of new beginnings for her. After the ceremony, the graduates scattered to parties. Suzie and Stacy joined the festivities, hopping from one house to another in nearby Battlefield, a small town just south of Springfield. Laughter filled the air. Music played. Friends toasted to the future. The night stretched on, a blur of congratulations and carefree joy. Around midnight, they were at a gathering hosted by a classmate. No one noticed anything unusual. No strangers lurking. No arguments. Just 2 young women on the cusp of adulthood, savoring their freedom. They left the last party around 2:15 a.m. Suzie drove her blue Ford Escort, Stacy riding shotgun. They headed back to Sherrill's house on Delmer Street, planning to spend the night there before heading to a water park the next day with friends. The drive was short, less than 10 minutes through the sleeping city. Streetlights cast long shadows. The roads were empty. They pulled into the driveway, parked beside Sherrill's car. Perhaps they chatted quietly as they walked up the porch steps. Perhaps they noticed the globe of the porch light shattered on the ground. Or perhaps not inside. Sherrill had gone to bed earlier. She had spoken to a friend on the phone around 11:15 p.m., mentioning plans to paint a chest of drawers. Her bed was made, but rumpled, as if she had been resting. The house was tidy, a reflection of her organized nature. The TV was on in the living room, tuned to a late-night show. Cigarettes sat on the table. Everything seemed peaceful, but by the time the sun rose, something had shattered that peace forever. The first sign that something was wrong came around 8 a.m. Stacy's mother, Janice McCall, expected her daughter home early to prepare for the water park trip. When Stacy didn't show up or call, Janice grew worried. She phoned Sherrill's house. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. By noon, Janice and her husband drove over to Delma Street. They knocked. No response. The door was unlocked. They stepped inside, calling out names. Silence greeted them. The house felt empty, yet lived in. Sherrill's king-size bed looked slept in. Suzie's and Stacy's makeup bags were open in the bathroom, as if they had freshened up before bed. Purses lay on the floor in Suzie's room, Sherrill's with $830 cash inside, Suzie's and Stacy's with their IDs, keys, and personal items. 3 cars sat in the driveway, Sherrill's Mitsubishi, Suzie's Ford, Stacy's Toyota. The family dog, Cinnamon, a small Yorkshire Terrier, barked and paced anxiously, but was unharmed. The TV was still on, volume low. Cigarettes and lighters remained on the table. Jewelry that the women typically removed before bed was scattered about. Everything pointed to a quick departure, or no departure at all, but the 3 women were nowhere to be found. Janice McCall's heart sank. She called the police. Officers arrived within minutes. They walked through the house, noting the unlocked door, the broken porch light globe outside, glass shards swept into a pile, as if someone had started cleaning but stopped. No blood, no overturned furniture, no fingerprints out of place, no footprints in the carpet. It looked like the women had simply walked out, or been taken, without a fight. One detail stood out. The answering machine light was blinking. A message had been left. In the confusion, a friend of the family played it. A strange male voice came through, mumbled, possibly threatening. Some heard, "They're gone," or, "Don't look for them." Others couldn't make it out. Then, the machine erased it. That potential clue, gone forever. Word spread quickly. By afternoon, friends and family filled the house. They cleaned up, thinking they were helping. They wiped surfaces, vacuumed, even threw away the broken glass. Unwittingly, they contaminated what could have been a crime scene. Police asked them to stop, but the damage was done. The Springfield Police Department launched a full investigation. They interviewed everyone who had seen the women that night. They canvassed the neighborhood. They searched the house with luminol, no blood. They checked the cars, nothing unusual. The dog was fine, no signs of distress beyond the barking. Early on, they considered foul play. Abduction seemed likely, but by whom, and why? As days turned to weeks, the case gripped Springfield. Missing posters went up everywhere. The faces of Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy stared back from telephone poles, store windows, and TV screens. Sherrill, 47, 5 feet 5 inches, 110 pounds, strawberry blonde hair, green eyes, a scar on her forearm. Suzie, 19, 5 feet 2 inches, 102 pounds, dark blonde hair, hazel eyes, tattoos on her arm and back. Stacy, 18, 5 feet 3 inches, 120 pounds, dark blonde hair, blue eyes, freckles, a birthmark on her chin. The community rallied. Vigils were held. Tips poured in, thousands over the years. The FBI joined, classifying it as a kidnapping. They traced phone records. Sherrill had called a friend at 11:15 p.m. No unusual calls after. They examined Suzie's life. She had recently broken up with a boyfriend. She had testified in a car theft case. Retaliation possible, but no evidence. One lead emerged early: a white van. Neighbors reported seeing a white Dodge van in the area that night. A woman at a grocery store the next day claimed she saw a similar van driven by a blonde woman, with a male voice saying, "Don't do anything stupid." But the tip led nowhere. Another, a green van seen circling the block. Again, nothing. A local criminal, Robert Craig Cox, later claimed knowledge. Cox was in prison for murder in Florida at the time, but said he knew the women were dead and buried. He passed a polygraph on being in Springfield that night, but his story changed. Police dismissed him as a liar seeking attention, yet his words chilled the families. Years passed. In 1997, the women were declared legally dead, but the case stayed open. In 2007, a tip led to a hospital parking lot in Springfield. Ground-penetrating radar showed anomalies, 3 shapes consistent with bodies. But excavation required hospital approval. It never happened. In 2016, a Florida man confessed on his deathbed. False. In 2020, new DNA tech was applied to old evidence. No matches. As of 2026, the Springfield Police Department still receives tips. A dedicated detective reviews them. The file is thick with dead ends. No arrests. No bodies. No closure. What makes this case so haunting is the ordinariness. 3 women, 1 house, 1 night, gone. No motive surfaced. No suspects stuck. Was it a burglary gone wrong? Sherrill was a light sleeper. Perhaps she woke, confronted someone. The others were collateral. Or was it targeted? Suzie had enemies from her past. A bad crowd. Drugs, theft rings, retribution. Stacy was innocent bystander. Or random. A predator cruising the streets. The unlocked door an invitation. The broken light a distraction. Theories swirl like the Ozark winds. Some say human trafficking. Others, a serial killer passing through. A few whisper darker conspiracies. Local corruption, covered up. But nothing sticks. Nothing explains the silence. Midway through the investigation, one detail nagged at detectives. What if the key was that erased message? The voice, male, unfamiliar. A taunt, a wrong number, or the killer himself, checking if anyone was home. Friends replayed it in their minds. But it's gone. Like the women, that lost clue haunts the case. A what if that echoes through the years. The emotional toll is immeasurable. For Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, every day is a search. She founded a support group for missing persons families. She speaks at events. She waits for the phone to ring. Bart Streeter, Suzie's brother, lives with the void. He remembers his sister as vibrant, artistic. His mother as strong, loving. They hold annual vigils, light candles, share stories. The community remembers too. Springfield hasn't forgotten. Billboards still stand. Podcasts revisit. True crime shows speculate. But the families want answers, not theories. Time erodes hope. But not entirely. In 2026, new tech, AI, DNA genealogy, offers glimmers. Perhaps one day, a match, a confession, a discovery. Yet the question lingers, heavy as the Missouri summer air. What happened inside 1717 East Delmar that night? Did they know their abductor? Did they fight? Were they taken alive? Or was it swift, silent? 3 lives, intertwined, erased in hours. No footprints out the door. No echoes in the wind. Just an empty house, holding its secrets. In a quiet neighborhood in Springfield, the lights came back on. Life resumed its rhythm. Children played. Neighbors waved. But for 3 families, time froze on June 7, 1992. The porch light was fixed. The house sold. But the shadows remain. A reminder that sometimes, the ordinary can hide the unimaginable. And more than 3 decades later, the same question burns. What really happened to the Springfield Three? The answer, if it exists, is out there, waiting in the silence.